I'm really nervous. I didn't think I'd be this nervous. I saw some people leaving. It's really kind of put the. Hang on. Just gonna have a drink. Oh, that's a bit better. Actually, do you know what's helping? The laughing. Do you think you could all laugh? Could you help me? Could you all laugh? Come on. a bit louder. a bit lower. Come on, more laughing. There's more of you. Come on, laugh. Fucking laugh. Right, how to be an evil scientist. First step, trick them all into laughing. Good, okay, welcome. Who of you here has heard of Armakuni? Anybody? A couple of people. Has anybody actually seen this talk before? No, good, because it's awkward if you have. So just a bit of background about who we are. We do mainly three things. We go into organisations and we consult. We help organisations build stuff, and we also do a lot of training as well. And these are the types of people that we work with. So everything from like big banks, high street banks, UK charities, to kind of startups like Daisy. So we kind of work on big things, small things, and everything in between. So you all did an evil laugh. I mean, some of you just looked a bit gormless, but I'm pretty sure that you're going to get there, right? Second, do you all have first names? Somebody here is shaking his head. I think you have two first names. Well, you get to choose, right? And you've got surnames. Great. So, using your initial of your first name, I'd like you to pick the word or the phrase from here. Okay? Yeah? If you've got two first names, you get to choose. You can do both. I mean, if it makes sense, go for it. And the second, your surname, your last name, and you know, if you can choose. Great. Do we all have that? Are we remembered? There will be a test. Yeah. Good. Okay. So you've got an evil name. Next thing, we need to find out what the most evil thing that you have ever done is. I'm going to go first. So this is Billy. Just to put him on the rest, she is still alive. She's a consulting engineer for Armakuni. She describes herself as quite tall. She helps people use best practice, and her favourite animal is the capybara, which I think is just like a giant guinea pig. It's a rat, thank you. And the most evil thing I did is I stole this talk from her and I didn't even say thank you. No? That's not evil? Okay, well, once upon a time I ate a whole packet of biscuits and I blamed it on my twin sisters. That's pretty evil. It is, right. So, what I want you to do is I want you to turn to the person next to you and I want you to introduce yourself with your new name. Forget the old names, they're outside now. The new name, and I want you to tell them the most evil thing that you have ever done. Go. Okay, have you all had a chance to do a bit of sharing? This isn't church. We're not. It's not confessional. Right. Who? Anybody like to share? Anybody care to share? Anybody share? Anybody got any good stories? I did this talk last week, and somebody told me that they went skiing and they were staying in the same ski resort as Michael Gove, and they put dog poo in his boots. Does anybody have anything as evil as that? No? Come on, somebody must have something evil. You guys. Nothing?
Nothing like that.
You are such good little boys. There's nobody wants to share anything. This isn't going to go well. Sorry? You voted for Brexit. That's not evil, that's just sick. Okay, well...
Does that count? Voting for Brexit, does that count?
If you want. The thing about sharing, though, it doesn't really matter if you don't share it with the wider group, but at least we all know something evil about each other, so if we do get caught, we're not going to glass each other up, because you know what happens to snitches. Next thing I need to tell you is the rules that every single evil scientist must follow. So rule number 1, never get caught monologuing. Okay, it's okay for me, because I've got this microphone, but otherwise, in most situations, don't monologue. Always try and splice things together. Now, that's, DNA, people's body parts, maybe just people themselves, try and kind of glue them together in some way. Bits of like Heath Robinson things together, like the A-Team. Just splice stuff together. Always have lots of evil schemes. You never know if there's going to be a sequel. Always start small. If you're going to blow up the world, maybe start somewhere small. Maybe start with Ipswich and then kind of go on from there. Always have an arch enemy. You always need to know who you're going to try and defeat. Always have an escape plan. That's very important. Always measure everything. Now, this isn't evil. This is science, right? And we're scientists, so we're evil scientists. That's a science part. Never wear capes. Mainly because capes are actually in fashion this season, and we don't like to be in fashion. And finally, always boast. There is absolutely no point in doing evil deeds if you're not going to tell everybody about it. Okay? You're happy with the evil rules? Yeah? Good. Okay, we'll cross that off. Next thing we need to know is our arch enemies. Who are we trying to defeat? Well, there's the waiting around kid. There's Captain Defect. There's General Heroics. The Crimson Handoff. Gold-plated features girl. Mr. Unneeded Process. This is screen number 1. This is screen number 2. L. Manual Work. Awful Comms Boy. Knowledge Drain Man. Constant Task Switching. The Relearner. Rework. Partially Completed Work Woman. Dr. Overly Complex Solutions. The Siloed Worker. And Poor Visibility Man. Now, have you come across these particular good guys in the past? Oh, there's some nods. I think, yeah, they seem to appear all over the place. But also, and this person I think is the worst of them all. This is 10x. Man, woman, person, them, they, I don't care. The best way of describing it, I don't know if you've seen this tweet. If you have a startup and you grab these people, they will make the difference in your startup. How do you spot them? Well, they think that meetings are a waste of time. They attend meetings because an all-staff meeting has been called. Timings in the office, they're highly irregular, and that's okay for them. If there's a hands-on meeting, they're not visible. They come in late to the office, they're late-night coders. I don't understand this one, but I've got it in there anyway because it's numbered. They know every single line of code that goes into production. When there's a problem, people go to them and ask, how do we fix it? They're the single point of failure. They're full-stack engineers, they have an opinion. They know absolutely everything. They can, and this is amazing, they can convert their thought into code. Give them a product feature and a caffeinated drink and it's done. They can read your minds. They really need to look at documentation, they've got great memories, they're always learning new frameworks, blah, 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 blah. What I'm trying to get to is we need to defeat these guys, these folks, right? Okay, so we can all laugh. Okay. You've all got evil names. You all know the evil things that each other done. You won't share them, but fuck you. We know the rules and we know our enemies. Great. So, LCD, how to be an evil scientist. It's the LCD, the Lurgy and Continuous Disaster Meetup. Welcome, thank you very much for coming. I am your host, I'm the Mad Werewolf. I could have chosen a better name, I could have chosen a cooler name, I didn't, I'm an idiot. But anyway, that's who I am. Welcome. I'm going to tell you a story. The story that I'm going to tell you is absolutely 100% true. Only the names have been changed and they're to protect the innocent. This is a made-up company. I'm hoping nobody works for a company called Catpaw Incorporated. Does anybody work for a company called Catpaw Incorporated? No, okay, so we can continue with this. Right, so Catpaw Incorporated, made-up company. This is dastardly Ashley. She is a kind of delivery manager type. She leads a team within this organisation. The most evil thing that she has ever done is somebody was once driving behind her too close, and so she went 10 miles an hour below the speed limit just to piss them off. It's pretty evil. Right? So she went to a conference. She learned about pair programming. We know what pair programming is? Yeah? Yes? Some thumbs. 2 keyboards, 2 monitors, 2 mice, 1 computer, 1 task, 2 people driving, navigating, all that sort of stuff. She learned about that stuff. She learned about pipelines. We all know about pipelines, right? Yeah, good. I can't standing here talking to you about pipelines, I'm not going to do that. She learned about test-driven development. Yeah, we never get what that is, right? Write the test up front, have it fail, write something that makes it pass, refactor, blah, 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 keep going and build your code up incrementally over time. She learned about all that stuff. She took this stuff back to her team and she said, I went to a conference and I learned about pair programming, I learned about pipelines, I learned about TDD, and I think it's going to be amazing, we should try it. Her team went, okay, that sounds like fun, we'll give it a go. And they gave it a go, and guess what? It worked. They were successful. It was incredible. Superheroes were being defeated left, right, and centre. Yeah. So, she was asked to help Sam and Alex do the same thing. So Sam and Alex are also delivery managers or product leads or whatever you want to call them within the same organisation. And they came along and said, how did you do? We've got our own teams. We want to know. Oh, there we go. Catching up with my clicky things being able to. We want to take over the world. How do we do that? And she said, okay, I'll help you. I've got these cool glasses that I got because my team was successful. They make me look cool. I'm going to do it. But what happened was the power went to her head. And she said, you've got to follow my rules. You've got to do it the way I did it. You've got to implement it exactly. And they were like, okay. But it didn't work. Superheroes came on and they bashed them down and beat them up. And eventually, they were all sent to jail. PMO jail. It's the worst kind of jail. But fortunately, Ashley had an escape plan. Because she knows that you should always have an escape plan, right? I'm not telling you how she escaped. But what I'm saying was there was a poster of Kent Beck in her cell. Right? This is what Ashley and the whole of Catpaw Incorporated didn't kind of take on board. And you've probably seen this quote a lot of times, right? This is the William Gibson quote, the future's already here, but it's not evenly distributed. And what we tend to find is you go into organisations and they say, help us do all this cool stuff. And you look and in pockets, it's actually already happening. People have maybe got continuous delivery or continuous pipelines or a continuous integration going. They may be pairing, they may be doing all the stuff that leads to kind of high-performing teams, but they're doing them in silos. And that's because each team is different. Each team is made up of its own unique things. In the organisation I'm working in at the moment, we've got software that is days old, and software teams that are weeks old, so they're able to kind of like set up their own environment and do all their own good stuff and be kind of like bleeding edge. And you've got software that they can trace the heritage of that software back to the 1950s and the processes and all that kind of stuff. And you've got everything in between. And so they're saying, how do we change the whole organization? How do we do that? We need to go back to the drawing board. We can't just kind of go drop in and go, we're going to pair, and everybody's going to be pairing. Look, you know, it works for Spotify. Let's implement the Spotify model. It's going to be awesome. So what Sam and Ashley did is they said, so what Sam and Alex did, they asked Ashley, they said, forget about the things you learned at the conference. Talk to me about your team. What did you do way back when, before you found all this stuff out? Why did you even think you needed to put this stuff in place? So Ashley sat and she thought about her first few weeks. She said, well, actually, do you know what? I didn't monologue. I just listened. I observed. I just worked out how is my team operating. I found out where are the pain points in my team. What are the gaps in the vision of my organisation or the team and the current reality? You know, going in and saying, we're all DevOps now, how do we get to being DevOps, whatever that means? I worked out what the problems were, and I worked out the potential solutions. And that's when I went to look for things. I went to conferences, I read books, I went to meetups, I talked to other people, and that's what happened. And I tried them out. I tried them out one by one in real-world situations. I didn't just send my staff out, my team out to a training course and say, ta-da, here you go. You now all know how to use AWS. I didn't do that. I tried to apply that in our day-to-day jobs. And I looked back, and I went, did it work? And if it didn't work, I looked, well, why didn't it work? What was wrong? You know, was the problem and the solution, are they not right things? You know, what was going on? So Sam and I went, well, what happens if we take the same approach with our teams? What if we experiment? What on our teams? We turn them into little mice, and we trek through the maze. So what does Ashley know about teams? What do you know about teams?
They're all different.
They're all different. They are made up of individuals. And those individuals have different experience at different times of their life. They've got different things that drain them. They've got different things that invigorate them. They are human beings. They're not resources. They have feelings. And it's very important to acknowledge the human side of the team. They come together and they interact with each other as a team, and that's also important. How does the team interact with each other? It's not just about, are we using the latest version of Java, or have we installed Jenkins X yet? It's about, do we respect each other? Do we trust each other? Do we have the right communication with each other? So it's the people in the team that are very important. The tools and the processes are also important, but they're all equal. They all take equal weight. They all have to work in synergy together. You know, just saying, oh, it's going to be fine. As long as we install Jira, we are going to be agile. You know, if we're going to put Sonatype in, and that means we're a DevOps team now. You know, or Jenkins or whatever it is. None of it. It's bollocks. It all has to work together, and it all has to be contextual to that team's environment. And that team's environment is the people around the team. So where does the work come from? Where does it go to? What's the value stream? What's the process that goes through it? You know, are there support teams that you rely on? Do you have to write documentation? Blah blah blah. All that kind of contextual stuff that is very important to knowing what's blocking the team from being the best team they possibly can. So, the evil scientist rules: never get caught monologuing. Always splice things together. Always have lots of evil schemes. Always start small. Always measure everything. Is empathize, synthesize, ideate, prototype, and test. We're basically talking about using design thinking to try and change the way that teams work and how we implement stuff. So, I can be in it if you want. Shall I stand here?
You are not evil anymore. This is the person who stole the idea.
It's not my idea. So what does empathy? What does it look like to empathise? Or what does that actually mean? You know, quite often I go to these things and people say, right, it's similar like the meme where how to draw an owl or a horse. Where you start with the circle and then draw the rest of the fucking owl. Have you seen that one? So here's some techniques that you can take away, you can go and look up and learn how to use with your teams and try and kind of roll this stuff out. So the first thing was stakeholder mapping. So working with the team to look at who's in our world, who do we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And it's useful to doing that maybe just with the team who is kind of responsible for the software, and maybe not the whole department, and looking and saying, you know, can you name them? Because sometimes, you know, certain people in the team don't know who they're meant to be dealing with. So you stakeholder mapping, you map people out on an axis maybe where it's how impactful and how influential are they. And then looking at some of the team metrics, some softer team metrics, things around the culture. The culture of a team and the culture of an organisation is around the stories and the myths that persist within that team. Why are we not able to do continuous delivery when another team in the organisation is? What's stopping us from doing that? What's the stories that we've been telling ourselves that allow us to do that? So techniques you can use is the Western topology to measure culture. Janet mentioned Accelerate. It's in there. It's in the DevOps report as well. It's a study that kind of looks at the health service and looks and say, right, in high risk environments, how do high performing teams, how do they interact with each other? What's the culture like? If you actually read Accelerate, it tells you how to run this survey. The generative, the performance-orientated teams, the teams that are allowed to, you know, have blameless post-mortems and share risks and kind of basically talk about that, transparent and open, they seem to be the high-performing ones. The other thing to look at is something like the 5 dysfunctions of a team. So I don't know if you've come across this. This is a book by a guy called Patrick Lencioni. It's well worth a read. It's always, all of this stuff is to be taken with a pinch of salt, and it's good to use for discussion within the team to say, do we have that base level trust? If we don't have that base level trust, we can't be vulnerable with each other. We can't say, I don't know, which means we can't then move on to the next stage, which is having kind of those robust conversations to try and kind of like eke out problems and stuff like that. Which means we can't commit to things, which means that we don't take accountability for stuff, and then that leads to kind of intentioned results. And the thing with both of these surveys is you can run them over a number of months or years to look and see how things shifted and what's going on around us that does that. Because there are things like, you know, restructures, reorgs, scope creep, changes, that they can affect things on a day-to-day basis. But they're useful tools to use. And then looking at the software, using something like the 4 key metrics. Again, State of DevOps and Accelerate talks about this in great depth. People are nodding. I hope you've all seen this. Has anybody not seen it? Yeah, okay, good. We used to know that stuff. I'm not going to go into detail there. But looking at the speed and the stability of the software. And the define stage, looking at what's, from a customer-centric point of view, using a service blueprint, what's our customer trying to get out of our world? Maybe that's the software that we're building, or maybe that's the support process around the software. So what do people see above the line when they interact with us, and what do they see below the line? What do we do like below the water, and which teams do we interact with? Again, seeing, does the whole team understand what the end-to-end flow of things are like? Value stream mapping is another technique where you can use to visualize stuff and look at where are the pain points, where are the blockers through our system. And then a service health check, something that kind of has come out of Spotify, but I think lots of other people use it. Atlassian have got versions of it as well, which is around, you know, given these 2 statements where one is positive and one is negative, you know, thumbs up, thumbs to the side, or thumbs down, how would you rate our code quality as a team? How would you rate our continuous delivery as a team? How would you rate our architecture, product and process, lean management monitoring? And the good thing about these is these are relevant to your teams in your situation. There's not like a hard and fast rule that say you've all got to know about lean management and monitoring. If you're more of a SaaS support operations team, you can put stuff in place there that kind of makes you good or bad. When it comes to the ideate stage, using techniques like 1, 2, 4, all, which is a technique where you sit and say, right, we now know, we kind of understand our world. What sort of problems do we have? Sit down as an individual, as a one, and come up with 4 or 5 ideas, and then sit with a pair and discuss those ideas, and then sit down as a 4, and then the whole group discusses it. Because what tends to happen when you kind of have these brainstorming idea sessions is the person who's either the most senior or got the loudest voice or sometimes the tallest is the one that's ideas come through. But if you use 1, 2, 4 all, it gives everybody a chance and everybody a voice to try and share their ideas. And then things like hypothesis generation, which I'll go into more detail in a second, where if you're I mean, at the end of Janet's talk, where she basically said, experiment, like 1 bullet point on a slide is my whole talk. But the learning goal, set yourself a learning goal. What's the thing that we're going to experiment on? What do we need to learn? What's our risk against assumption? What's the number 1 priority that we have? And our hypothesis, is it falsifiable? Is it specific? Is it achievable, causal, all those things? Because we believe that this capability will result in this outcome when we know we've succeeded and whatever measurable signal. So giving yourself that statement that says, by implementing this new technique, or by even a very small thing like if you're a software team who's meant to be supporting the software end to end, and just access 1 single database table in production to be able to see it in read mode, putting something around that, saying, well, we'll be able to reduce our queue time down by X, gives you that thing. And it's a small step to then move you somewhere else. So you then put a small plan, like a task list, time box it, have metrics, fail condition, and early stop. And that, going back to that kind of like learning goal slide where there's a single sheet of paper, you can fill all of this in a single sheet, which gives you a document to go around to other people to say, we want to do this thing next, and here's how we thought it through. This is what we're going to measure. This is when we're going to stop if it goes wrong. This is what success looks like. It's not just we're going to install Git and we're going to move to Git flow and it's going to be awesome. It's more of if we start to use Git, then our merges will be better. I don't know. My imagination has gone completely out the window. But you get the theme, right? And then finally, you test and you share. So you test the thing out. You say, right, we're going to act it out in a real world environment, not in a toy. We actually act it out in our production, on our production life cycle. And we share, we boast about it. We share it with the rest of the organisation because hopefully what you're doing, other people within the organisation are also suffering from so that they can learn. So you go to community of practice, you set up lunch and learns, you come to Meetup like this and talk about it. An important part of that as well is keeping a record, journaling, kind of like whether it's every day or every week, like week notes and stuff like that, keeping a record of what you've done because quite often you forget. You think, oh, maybe we did that. Did we do that? I can't remember. What happened? Oh, no, Dave did it. Oh, Dave. That sort of stuff. And measurement is obviously very, very important. And measuring the work you're doing and the experiment, but also measuring stuff like the awareness, the will, the knowledge, the skills, and the support around the team. So the perception of the team around a particular thing. So if you said our theme is pair programming, and everybody asks you to rate themselves out of 1 saying, I don't know much about it at all or nothing about it, to 5, people come and ask me for advice about it, I'm an expert in it, how would you rate yourself through the life cycle of that experiment and say, are we actually improving the team's understanding and knowledge? And are people going backwards and maybe thinking, actually, I thought I was awesome, and then I realised I know nothing because I was lying. Or suffering from that kind of like false peak, that Dreyfus effect. So you can track this over time if, it can be a visual thing in your team. Hopefully everybody shifts towards the right, but you never know. So they did that. Sam and Alex copied Ashley's first week. They designed an experiment to run on their teammates. And guess what? They met a dead end. But that's okay, because it's in the experiment. Because they met another dead end. That's all right. Eventually, they got through the maze and caught this particular superhero. Because formulating an experiment, it was easier to get permission to fail. They were able to say, it's okay, we're just trying this out. Look, we've time boxed it, we've got an end date. If it goes wrong, we've got if it goes tragically wrong, we've got a stop, we know what's going to happen. It allowed them to focus on the value, on the getting stuff out the door, which is the most valuable thing. And the iteration and the working out what's specific for each team was very, very important. It allowed them to crush all their opposition and take over the world. Thank you. These are not books I've written. These are books that I recommend you all read. Just to be clear, I'm not trying to plagiarise anything. Yeah. Thank you.